Hello, and welcome to Lecture 3. So in Lecture 2, we already loaded in the two datasets we need for this tutorial, and now we can move on to exploring the simplest joining functions in R, which are cbind and rbind. So cbind, which stands for column bind, and rbind, which stands for row bind, are used to combining vectors or combining small, simple datasets. For large and more complicated tasks, we will use the join commands from the tidyr package, which we will teach you soon. To demonstrate how cbind and rbind works, we will create two vectors and name them vec1 and vec2. As you can see, vec1 has 3 elements, which are 1, 2, and 3. Vec2 also has 3 elements, which are A, B, and C. Now, let's combine the two vectors together using cbind first. After calling the cbind function on vec1 and vec2, two columns are created. The first column is named vec1, and it is orderly filled with 3 elements in vec1. 1, 2, 3. Similarly, the second column is named vec2, and is orderly filled with 3 elements in vec2, which are A, B, and C. Now, let's call on rbind. As we can see, the rbind functions creates 2 rows. The first row is filled with 3 elements in vec1, 1, 2, 3. The second row is filled with 3 elements in vec2, A, B, and C. Right? The row and the column. So now, one main difference we notice that is cbind creates column and merge columns together. On the other hand, rbind creates row and merge rows together. At this point, you may ask why we cannot use cbind or rbind to merge datasets together. The answer to the question is that cbind and rbind only works when the number of elements in the vector or data frames we want to merge together is equal. Let's take a look at another example to see how cbind and rbind will match things up when we have a different number of elements in vectors. For example, we will introduce vec3, a vector which only has 2 elements, D and E. Okay, now let's try to merge vec1 and vec2, vec3 together. Let me clear the console first. Okay, so let's call on vec3. As you can see, that when we try to call cbind and rbind on vec1, vec2, and vec3, R doesn't really want us to do so. This will give us some error messages and will produce some really weird result. As you can see that after calling cbind on vec1, vec2, and vec3, 3 columns are created, each belong to a vector. For vec1 and vec2, this all works perfectly fine. But for vec3, we can see that the vec3 column is filled with D, E, and D, 3 elements, instead of the correct amount of elements in vec3, which are only D and E. Similar for rbind, the row belonging to vec3 is also filled with D, E, and D, which are not correct elements in vector 3. So this character of cbind and rbind will prevent us from using them to join data frames together, as data frames rarely have equal number of elements, right? So now, just for fun, let's take a look at what will happen if we try to join WDI data and cal data together with cbind and rbind. Let's clear the console once again. By the way, if you want to clear the console, just press Ctrl and Alt together. This will remove all the messages previously printed in the console. Okay, let's run this. As we can see from the result, R will not join the two datasets together if we call cbind or rbind on them. Instead, it will only give us an error message telling us that cbind and rbind will not work since the two datasets have a different number of elements. So what do we do now? Don't worry, different joining functions in the tidyr package are perfect tools for joining large and complex datasets. We'll start exploring these different joining functions in next lecture. Thanks again for watching lecture 3 and see you in lecture 4.